Three U.S. airlines fly a total of 72 MAX planes, representing 2% of U.S. flights daily. American averages 85 flights per day on the MAX 8. United averages about 40 flights. Southwest Airlines says 150 flights, about 5% of their daily flights, use a MAX jet.
So it's just a small number of the thousands of jets that are flown each day by U.S. carriers, but it does come with a significant cost. And let's discuss that with Seth Kaplan of Airline Weekly and communications expert Aaron Sykes. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
Seth, why this? It seemed pretty sudden. Why this sudden reversal from the FAA?
Well, at some point, there really wasn't much of a decision left to make because these planes were effectively grounded anyway, the vast majority of them around the world. This has been unusual, as you know, Lauren. In the past, the FAA has taken the lead,
right,
and other countries have followed here, kind of the opposite. And at some point, the cost to grounding them just wasn't that high because, I mean, these planes, even U.S. airlines that were allowed to fly them, weren't allowed to fly them, for example, over Canada.
Yeah, it got pretty messy and confusing, and Aaron, passengers started to panic. How does Boeing save its reputation?
Well, the best course of action in crisis management is generally to get in front of the story, especially when there is a known wrong. So, unfortunately, Boeing didn't do that for about the first 48 hours until President Trump made the speech last night. When that happens, a lot of times there's fear-mongering. So what we're trying to do now is get ahead of that fear-mongering and explain the true causes and the time frame to fix them.
We're not necessarily sure, Seth, of the true causes. The Dallas Morning News did a pretty in-depth investigation, and they found in their research that anonymously 5 pilots complained about the plane system in question, and one of them actually quoted inadequate and almost criminally insufficient. That's how they described this plane. What do you make of that?
Yeah, this is like putting together a puzzle here. And a few days ago, you know, you could kind of squint and say, well, maybe there are some similarities. Maybe I know what I'm looking at here in terms of what more clearly caused the Lion Air crash and what might have caused this crash here, just still obviously in the early days. But as you get those additional data points, yes, this is a system. Interestingly, by the way, a plane, this new 737 MAX, that's kind of updated the tried and true 737, in some ways not really a radical departure. You almost might have criticized it for not being kind of a clean sheet, all new aircraft.
Yeah.
And then in this one way, Boeing seems to have maybe over-innovated the system that was designed to prevent things that had caused previous crashes, and instead seems to have rather clearly played a role in the Lion Air crash. And yeah, as time goes on here, potentially played a role in this crash too.
Aaron, how do you make passengers feel comfortable getting on airplanes right now?
It's calling out the timeline for the fix. It's really putting all hands on deck for that fix, right, and then being transparent. And also, after admitting culpability, there have to be reparations. So get in front of all of the lawsuits.
Seth, I've seen so many numbers thrown out for the exact cost of this to Boeing. Fitch is concerned they're not making any moves to the credit rating just yet, but they say, you know, there's about 590 MAXs to be delivered this year at a value of $30 billion. But other people say this might be a $1 billion cost to the company. What do you make of it?
Yeah, and you see Boeing off its lows yesterday here on the day when the planes were finally grounded, the last of them here in the U.S., Boeing up 2%. And that tells you that you know, all the bad news seems to have been priced in here. Yeah, the problem now is that Boeing continues to manufacture planes as we speak that it can't deliver. You know, it took 5,000 orders, a very successful program in that regard, but Boeing gets paid most of what it's going to get paid when it delivers these planes. So let's watch what happens next. Definitely billions of dollars in cost to Boeing, that's clear.
Absolutely. Yeah. Seth Kaplan, Aaron Sykes, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and these upgrades are going to be